Welcome to Wardrobe Wisdom, and thank you so much for joining me for this beautiful conversation we're about to delve into. My name is Sarah Gale. I'm the founder of Wearing Your Worth and the host of Wardrobe Wisdom. Today, we've got a really beautiful guest on the show called Kaitlyn Menere.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here.
I am so excited to have you here. And in all transparency, we've spent the last 30 minutes trying to get all the different video and speakers to work. So something tells me that our persistence of ourselves and our souls tells me this conversation is meant to take place. Kaitlyn, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself so that the listeners know who they're speaking to. And please don't be shy with your gifts and talents because I know they're plentiful. So go for it.
So I'm Kaitlyn. I'm a holistic psychotherapist and coach. I am the host of She Said What, the podcast as well. I help my clients with anxiety, their confidence, their self-esteem, moving through stagnant emotions, a whole range of different things through a few different modalities, including breathwork, coaching, psychotherapy, a little bit of woo-woo magic in there that I can't really talk about. But basically, what I'm here to do, what my mission is to reconnect women back to themselves.
Beautiful. So we kind of have an aligned mission, right? In reconnecting women back to themselves. And you've done a Wearing Your Worth session, and we will talk about that. But I wanted to start off with some broader questions around beauty, because for this subject is bringing up so much in me and so much in my listeners, my clients, and all of the women that I speak to. And I just feel like we're at a really pivotal point in history at the moment that I want to explore beauty. So I'd like your take on beauty as a whole and where you see it in society at the moment.
I love this question and I love this conversation. So as we've spoken about before, I've actually come from 10 years in the hair and makeup industry. So prior to holistic psychotherapy, I was a hair and makeup artist for 10, maybe even 12 years. And I found myself working for fashion shoots, e-commerce, lots of branding, lots of big campaigns, as well as all the weddings and bridal work. So my view of beauty has actually really evolved and changed over the last few years, being so heavily in that field where everything is really focused on trends and what's happening in the magazines, and it's really externally focused, to a huge shift that I've witnessed within myself, but also what I see with my clients as well, is really focusing on the inner beauty with people and having that self-assurance and that self-love and that self-trust actually radiates more beauty than any type of external thing could. And that's something that I had to really learn for myself, because when I was in the hair and makeup industry, I was doing Botox, I was getting fillers, I had bleach blonde hair, and I was like getting hair extensions, and everything was like focused on beauty in quotations, but internally I didn't feel beautiful.
Got it. Beautiful. And I think this is a story that we all can relate to, in the sense of really focusing on the external of beauty. My question to you is, where did that come from for you? I think we all have different origins, but I'm curious.
I think for me, it came through society and through friends and through the environments that I was in. I don't really think I picked up a lot from my mum, because she wasn't a huge makeup girl, or she wasn't typically focused on the way that she dressed or the way that she did her hair. However, going up through high school and being a teenage girl, it was all about makeup. It was all about doing your hair nicely. It was all about dressing a certain way. So I kind of just evolved into feeling like I had to do that and had to focus on that. And it wasn't necessarily one thing. I feel like it was just the upbringing that I had and the friends that I was hanging out with as a teenage girl. Then getting into the makeup industry, it's hard to escape that as well, where you're constantly having conversations about makeup, skin treatments, losing weight, looking a certain way. It just becomes part of you as you're surrounding yourself with it. And no one was having any different conversations. There was nothing challenging that conversation. That was just what it was.
Got it. So you said that you felt that you had to
Mm.
And I'm curious, being the psychotherapist that you are, being the talented and gifted and very insightful woman that you are, if you think about that phrase, I felt like I had to keep up, what do you think was really driving that had to?
Well, when we look at it from a physiological point of view, and this is only something I have in reflection, knowing what I know now, we are pack animals as humans. And to be outside of that pack equals death. And so it's actually really unsafe for us to be the outsider or the weirdo or the loner. And we fear it, and it comes through our system as like an actual threat to us. So when we go through, and what I can see for myself going through high school and feeling like I needed to do this, it was because I wanted that acceptance and because I wanted to fit in and because that felt like a safe thing for me to do. But on a conscious level, I wouldn't have known that. I was like, yeah, I'm just being a teenage girl who's into makeup and who's into beauty, and this is just life. But it's only upon reflecting back that you can actually see, okay, well, this is me going, okay, I need to be this way to fit into the pack. Not only just on a micro level, but on a huge macro level as well, with the way that we're brought up in culture and magazines, and now like social media being such a big thing. It's just constantly being shown to us in different ways. So of course we want to be accepted. Of course we want to be part of that.
Mm. Got it. So you then went into the makeup and hair industry, and you said, I think you said you were there for 10 years.
Yeah. Well, since I was 16, I started it. So it was actually closer to 12 years.
Wow. Okay. And what did you see or feel while you were in that industry?
In regards to the beauty,
Yeah.
it
And
was,
in yourself, like, how did you feel in yourself in that industry?
I felt like I had to look a certain way and be a certain type of person because of the people that I was around. And it was really interesting. I don't think it really started taking shape until I started working with models. And you have these women who are absolutely incredibly stunning creatures. And they're picking apart their face, they're picking apart their body, they're picking apart their teeth, they're picking out their eyebrows, and they're sitting in front of a mirror and you're doing their hair and makeup, and you can't see any flaws with them, but they're picking themselves apart. And then you're comparing yourself and you're going, I remember I'm doing a client's hair, and she's talking about what it was, maybe like her unsymmetrical face. And I'm behind her doing her hair, looking at myself, looking at her and going, well, if she thinks that of her, what does she think of me? What do I think of me? And I remember starting to work with models and starting to work with more higher fashion campaigns, and it really affecting my self-worth because I was put against these beautiful women tearing themselves apart and then putting that against me as well and going, oh my God, I'm hideous.
So it sounds a bit like, tell me if I've got this right. It sounds a bit like you were living the physical experience of social media.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
every day.
Yes. Yes.
You were,
Comparison.
yeah. And that sense of having what the beauty industry says this is what beauty is in front of you, and you are even making them so-called more beautiful for the shoots.
Yeah.
You are kind of applying the filter.
Yes. Right. I
The
was like
only
part of the problem.
the only difference was you were hearing their internal dialogue, which is what we don't hear on social media. Imagine that. Imagine if there was an app, there was a technology that when people put up what they put on social media, we could actually hear the narrative of what was actually happening as they were filming that or as they were watching it go past. Because I don't know about you, but there are times where I redo videos. Do you redo videos?
All the time.
Yeah, okay. Let's just be real because everyone, and it might be, I don't know, it might be the look or it could be the sound or it could be, I didn't say this quite right. And after a while, I'm just like, for goodness sake, Sarah, just put the bloody video on. But imagine if we could hear that. And you were actually in the privileged position of hearing that. Yeah, of being able to see that. So I'm curious, what had you leave that industry? Because it's kind of like a stark contrast.
It's
Yeah.
such a big contrast.
Tell us about that.
I never planned on doing it. It wasn't like I'll do hair and makeup for X amount of years, then I'll get into something else. It happened during lockdowns. 2021, I believe it was. I couldn't work. I worked fully for myself and we went into lockdown and there was no work. All of my shoots got cancelled. All of my weddings got cancelled. I lost all of my income. And I was like, oh my God, like what do I do? I wasn't eligible for like really anything. And I was reading a book called How to Do the Work by Dr. Nicole LaPera. Before this, I wasn't into personal development at all. I'd started meditating maybe a little bit for the past maybe 3 or 4 years, but that was it. I wasn't into exploring myself. I didn't feel the urge to get to know myself anymore. And then I was reading this book and I was like, wow, this is really cool. Oh my God. And I was learning about myself and I was learning about my own traumas and my own behaviors and how they're impacting things. And I remember sitting there in my bed one day reading this book and I had this full body experience, like full tingles came over me. And it was like, I need to do something else. I think I want to help people. And I was like, what do you mean? Like you're a hair and makeup artist. At this point in time as well, I was like a really big binge drinker. I was partying a lot. That hair and makeup is all I knew. There was nothing else going on for me. And I had been honing this skill for 10 to 12 years. So for me to have this experience and me to have this idea of, hey, I think I want to help people on a psychological level was completely crazy. Like absolutely so left of field, so off brand. But I was like, I think I want to do it. And then I found a course. I wanted to study holistic counseling to start off with. It's like, okay, well, I lost my mum when I was 20 and I've been through that. And I had started working through that kind of grief. I was like, okay, maybe I can help people with grief. And then it just started snowballing. I started studying meditation, teaching. And then it went into holistic counseling. And then it eventually turned into holistic psychotherapy. And now it just keeps evolving and evolving and evolving as I evolve. But it was never part of my grand plan, which is so cool.
And so did you ever feel tempted to go back into the hair and makeup, like once lockdown stopped?
Yes. So I had to continue working in it for a while until I built up my business, right? So it was kind of like started saying no to weddings because they required like 9 to 10 months in advance. I was like, I'm not doing any weddings anymore, but I'll still work. I worked a lot for like Cotton On, Typo, Supre, all of those big fashion brands. So I did a lot of them and I kept that work up and then started like building up my coaching business a little bit more. But it was really hard. I found it really, really challenging to have those types of conversations where we're talking about trends and we're talking about all the latest skincare and we're doing all of this because I was so into personal development. As soon as I read that book, I was like, all I want to talk about is like bigger things and deeper things. And I felt myself feeling really unfulfilled from makeup.
Mm.
And it used to just fill my cup so much. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I actually don't want to talk about celebrities. I don't care who's posting what. I don't care about maths. I don't care about any of that. Like, tell me about your childhood. Tell me what you did on the weekend, but like actually how you feel. So it was like a real shock to the system.
Wow. And so did you have those conversations with people in the chair?
I tried to, like, and it opened me up a lot, but at the time, I was quite self-conscious of this new part of me. I was so self-conscious. So it was like, I do a little bit, but then it's like, oh, but keep it in the closet. Keep this part of you in the closet and just be the fun party girl makeup artist, because that's what people know you as, and that's really comfortable. So a lot of my journey has actually been allowing myself to be this person and allowing myself to be seen as this person. And it was like, okay, well, I really kept it separate. Even when I started taking clients, I wouldn't tell any of my makeup clients that I was doing this because I was like, oh, they won't take me seriously, or they're going to think I'm this person. But it was really like my own insecurities coming through.
It's fascinating, isn't it? How we label ourselves. We put ourselves into these boxes and then try and move us in to operating in the boxes in the way that we feel like other people will accept us.
Yeah.
I remember a similar journey with my fashion journey. And I also remember being in a cab in London one time on a trip, and there were a lot of us there, and I happened to be in a cab with one of the general managers, and it was a man, and I just got tired of the superficial talk, and I turned around to him and I said to him, so tell me about your relationship with your mother. Just like, really asked me that? And I said, he said, that's a big conversation. We're not going anywhere. Feel free to share. I was so starved of real conversations. And actually, then he did start to open up about his relationship with his mother. And it's one of the highlights of the trip and one of the most interesting conversations I'd had, because I too was getting really tired of the trends. And as much as I love creativity, because I do, and that aesthetics of life, like it's beautiful, but I think when you've been touched by that brush of something deeper, it's hard to ignore and not paint that throughout our conversations. Yeah.
It sets a new almost baseline, because it's like the conversations that we were having about trends and about celebrities were just like scratching the surface.
Yeah.
And it's like I crave such a deeper connection now that I've seen it. That's what I want, and that's how I want to connect with people.
Yeah, beautiful. So you did a Wearing Your Worth session, maybe a month ago or so. And I know that we had a lot of discussions going into that, because at the beginning of a session, we go through a pretty extensive questionnaire just to find out where you're at with beauty. And I'm really curious about just discussing some of the things that you found with yourself. And I'm curious to how they've changed. And I'm not attached to whether they've changed. I am. I'm so attached. It's beyond, right? But at the same time, I'm really accepting, because everyone has their own journey. I'm curious as to how was your feeling like I said to you, hey, you want to dive into your wardrobe and let's find the patterns and the programming that's really dictating what's having you wear, because I was really interested, and my work is really about, let's find out what's underneath the clothes. Let's find out what's governing your choices, because my guess is it's what you talked about in your teenage years of the societal patterning. And I know that when we're in our societal patterning, we cannot shine and really hold our truth out in life. So I'm curious, how was your feeling in the thought of going into a session where we were going to dissect your relationship with your clothes? How did that feel for you?
I was really excited, but I was also prepared for it to be quite deep. And as I said to you, I think my relationship with my mum, I was never taught really how to dress for myself or how to express myself through my clothes. I always dressed for comfort, for like it was like a comfort thing. It was never like express yourself. It was just you just dress whatever comfortable for you and you don't really think about things. So I knew, and upon reflection, like once we had booked in the session, I was like thinking about what I was wearing and I was like, there is some deep shit going on here. Like there is some stuff that I'm hiding. There is some stuff that I'm not fully expressing, but I didn't know the pathway out of that until our session. And as we know, like it was really emotional for me. I cried a lot.
Which is so beautiful. And I always look at tears as a form of release. And to me, it just showed me your capacity of really being able to be with what was inside and to let that go. So, yeah, we reached some really beautiful depths in your session. We talked early about being seen. And I know there was a part of you that didn't want to be seen. And then I'm curious as to how that is now. Like, how does that feel for you? What is it about being seen as a woman?
Well, this has been such a big thing for me, like the fear of being seen for who I am. And even as I was speaking about my story earlier, when I was still doing makeup and doing psychotherapy, it was like, well, don't look at me in this side and presenting only this part of me. Right. So I feel like I've forever had this fear around being seen for who I am, and not for fear of being not good enough, but fear of actually being beautiful and powerful and successful. Right? There hasn't really been a fear of, oh, maybe I'm not worthy. It's like, oh fuck, I actually really am. And like,
Yes.
that's the fear of like, who am I to be beautiful and successful and dress really nicely and have a really great business and really impact lives. And so there was this part of me that was really fearful of being seen in my power. And that came through with how I was dressing. So I remember Sarah was like, what do you wear? Like I work from home. What do you wear? And it was like a grungy, oversized t-shirt, baggy tracksuit pants, and I just covered up, right? And uncovering that whole process of really realizing that is just me expressing how much I do not want to be seen for who I am and my feminine body and my femininity and my power. After that, like awareness, it's shifted so much. And even just the way I dress, like I'm working today, but I've got like actual clothes on, like denim shorts. Like I'm putting effort into my appearance, even if I'm just at home doing client calls or doing this. It's changed so much, and I feel like it's already coming through my business because a part of me isn't, I don't feel that fear of being seen because I can hold it.
Mm.
Mm.
I love what you just said. I can hold it. And so often, and I'm curious to know whether you find this with clients, because our relationship with our wardrobe is a reflection of our relationship with life, right? So if we find it in the wardrobe, just as you've just described, you've started to see it already come through in your business as well. And that fear, once we're able to hold it and we find the patterns and then we re-embody those in what we wear, somehow we're moving ourselves into a space of a larger nervous system. So we're actually embodying a different energy. So our nervous system has to kind of keep up with that. So I'm wondering whether the fear of being seen, the fear of being too much, the fear that makes us shrink, that makes us hide, is actually our fear of, yes, retribution from others, and also our feeling of incapacity to be able to hold all that bigness in our own energy and nervous system. What do you think?
Well, typically it's a projection, right? Of we fear, especially when we're feeling that people are judging us. It's actually us judging us. And that fear of being too much is actually us feeling like we're too much, not other people thinking we're too much. So we think it all really does come back down to our capacity in our nervous system, but also our conditioning and the way that we've been brought up. Because, and I have I have actually many clients that experience this when they've been younger and they get told like, don't cry, you're causing a scene, or don't speak up and don't dress like that, you'll look like a little hussy, or it's that little pieces of constantly being told you're too much, you're too loud, right? Be quiet. That actually ripples out. And that forms our adult, how we see ourselves as adults, right? All of these things that happen up until the ages of 6 or 7, we're literally sponges. So if you can imagine you're a kid who's crying in the supermarket and your mum's going, shut up, you're being so loud, you are too much. That kid isn't going, oh, I'm being inconvenient because it's a supermarket. This kid is going, oh my God, my emotions that I feel that are so true for me right now and are so prevalent is too much. I am too much. My emotions are too much. And it stores in the brain like that. And you can imagine if that happens every second day, every week, they're making a noise, they're banging on something. Be quiet, you're too much. They're yelling loudly and they're expressing themselves. Be quiet, you're too much. So that's just going in. I'm too much, I'm too much, I'm too much, I'm too much. That just doesn't evaporate when you get older. So they grow up going, okay, well, I actually don't feel safe to express my emotions. I can't make too much noise. I can't speak my truth. I can't do anything that's going to put me in that too much category. And it's not stories in their head. It's a full body belief. And this is where it gets different because people go, oh, well, that's not something I think about. It's like, no, you wouldn't think about it because it's actually just true for you. It's not, is this true? It is true. So this comes through and then you see it coming through the way people dress, through the way they express themselves or don't express themselves. It's all so connected.
Beautiful. So in taking that model, how did it feel for you when you started to challenge that in what you wore?
It felt uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it always will be. It's not going to be, oh, okay, I've realized I fear being seen. Now I'm going to dress this way and everything's going to be hunky-dory, right? Because you're challenging belief systems, you're changing neural pathways in your brain and in your body. Your nervous system will be like, ding, 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 this is a threat, this is unsafe. And that's what we were speaking about when you mentioned building the capacity, right? You have to push through that discomfort and create those new behaviors and create that new neural pathway for yourself. So it's going to be uncomfortable. And I remember being like, this just feels like my brain was like, this is dumb. This feels uncomfortable. Like just put on your trackies, just put on this, just put on your t-shirt. And it's like, actually, no, I'm going to do this. It's like forming a new habit where it's like, okay, I've actually got to really be conscious and put in the effort to, I don't know, sit down and meditate for 5 minutes, whatever the habit it is you're building. But it's that same process of like, okay, my old belief system wants to just go baggy hoodie, baggy trackies and call it a day. But I really have to consciously push it back the other way and go, no, what if I was fully in my power? How would I really dress? How do I really want to express myself today? Regardless of if I'm just sitting at home, regardless of if I'm just working from my computer, how do I actually want to feel in the energy of today? And that was really cool.
Beautiful. So that leads me on to our style essences. So our style essences are 3 sensory creative characteristics that I am of the absolute belief that it's our soul's blueprint for how our soul wants to express our energy in the everyday life. I often say to people, you're 1 in 8 billion people. You come with your own unique frequency. And in that frequency, no one else has that energetic frequency or blueprint that you do. So doesn't it make sense that you would feel a particular leaning towards an expression on the external of that frequency? And that's where the style essences came from. And for the listeners that haven't heard me talk about these, we each have 3 style essences. Why they're 3? I have no idea why there's 3. There's always 3. So there's 3. And each person has their own style essences. So I can't look and go, oh, that person, I can see what they're wearing. They've got these style essences on, because unless they've done the Wearing Your Worth program, what they're wearing will be governed by their programs and their patterns. But once we get under those programs and patterns, we then find those style essences. Now, the thing is, often what happens is with the 3, there's one that's pretty obvious, right? Because it's almost like that's the most comfortable one. And that is the one that has been overplaying up until when we work together. The second is kind of like a yes and a no. Some people find it easy to find. The second is kind of like, yeah, not sure. And then it comes in and it's like, oh gosh, 100%. And the third one is normally in resistance. It's the part of us, you said before, it's like that projected. If we look at what we judge in others, we'll probably get close to finding that style essence. So I'm wondering whether you would be willing to give the listeners a view of your style essences and how that was for you in finding each, which was easy, which was a bit more resistant, and that kind of feel.
This whole process blew my mind. Like I went into it having a bit of an understanding of some style essences, but going, okay, well, mine's probably like comfort, beachy, like casual. And I was like, this is my style essence and it's cool. And then we go through the process of it and trying on dresses, trying on shoes, swapping the dresses, going through. And I was like quite confused of the process, right? It was something so new. And I remember when you said, pick out your 8 to 10 favorite pieces. And I'm like, this is easy. Cool. Grab my dresses out. And I put on this one dress, that light pink one that kind of comes down a little bit and it flows to the ground. And I'm just like, I love it. I feel feminine. I feel beautiful. Oh, I didn't say beautiful because that was a whole thing. I feel pretty. I feel just really nice. And you're like, okay. And we played around with shoes. And then I put on my other dress and it was my yellow linen dress that kind of comes up to here, a little bit shorter. And you said something and you were like, your body language has changed. Your voice has changed. And I was like, what do you mean? And we got to unpack that, which was just insane because I hadn't realized how much my body language and my voice changes depending on what I'm wearing. And it was me really dressing immaturely and dressing like a kid, really, instead of embracing that feminine beauty and that like powerful womanhood, I guess. So that was really cool. And as we went through the process, working out my style essences of sexy, which is just absolutely crazy, sexy, uniquely cool, and elegant, which I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But then it was like, it makes all the sense.
Can you explain that?
Well, like I said at the start, I was like, oh, my style essences will be beachy or comfortable or something like this. And I never saw myself as an elegant person or someone who values sexiness or anything like that. But it was because I was masking and because I was hiding and because I didn't want to be seen as that person who can hold that because it all felt too much. But even just the shifts in my body language and the way that I was speaking was enough for us both to go, whoa, like the difference that it was making when I was wearing something where my skin was out or I felt really beautiful and I felt really powerful in compared to something that I would just like chuck on and it just didn't really do anything for me was like night and day.
Mm.
And so even just to discover that that's how my soul wants to be expressed and I get to do it in my way and it doesn't need to be like wearing super low cut things and having heaps of skin showing or it doesn't need to be expressed in a way that doesn't feel good. It actually feels so good for me to express myself in this way.
Beautiful.
Mm.
And let's just unpack sexy for a minute because you had a response when you said that before. And I'd really like to understand that response from you because it comes up a lot.
Mm. Well, yeah, I would never have described my style as sexy because that feels like it is sexy to the external or like I'm trying to be sexy and I'm trying to be sultry and it has this almost doing it for others kind of connotation on it. Whereas when you explained it's like having the air touch my skin and having like, yeah, my skin out and having that kind of vibe to it, that makes a lot of sense because I wouldn't have ever explained it as sexy. I would have just been like, oh yeah, well, I feel really uncomfortable in jackets and heavy things. So that connection was cool.
Yeah, got it. And just for the listeners, when we're doing this process, it's like those words were coming out of your mouth. So I don't overlay. They actually were coming out. How do you feel? Oh, I feel sexy. Okay. And it's like I think it took you by as much surprise as anything. It was like, oh, the look on your face is like, but I do. And
Yeah.
it's when we hit on those essences. Elegant was the same. Tell me about elegant.
I just would never have assumed or thought myself as an elegant person at all.
Tell me
So
about that.
it's just nothing I've ever related to. Like, I feel like I'm just like quite chaotic and quite like casual. And to have this elegant come through, I was like, "Ooh, that doesn't really make sense." But then as it started to form more and as we started to go through the process more, I was like, this makes a lot of sense. And it was like it felt like it just fit. And all I can do is just like this kind of action. Like it just felt like everything came in because it isn't like some beachy, wild kind of vibe that I like. It is something that's a bit more refined and put together, but it has to be elegant in my own way. And that one shocked me. That and sexy. I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, got it. Well, it's uniquely cool was kind of it was throughout. That was kind of the one that overplayed a lot. Yeah. And also played more in that child, more in the masculine than the feminine. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So let's have a look at the feminine as well,
Mm.
right? And what's your relationship been prior to the session with the feminine, with your feminine? And
Mm.
then how's it been after the session? I'm curious.
I feel like I've been leaning more into understanding my feminine and masculine sides leading up to the session and knowing that I feel like I tend to operate more from my feminine and like being quite flowy and quite intuitive. And that's when I feel my best, but never really applied it to clothes ever. And so it was really interesting to discover that I need like that 90% feminine and only like a 10% of masculine to ground it back in because I would never have described myself as dressing quite feminine. But then as we were going through my wardrobe, it was like I felt so good in flowy skirts and flowy dresses. And I was like, that just feels so like me. But it was like I had formed, like we spoke about, I had formed this almost false sense of identity around being like a wild woman or like having this different identity that I actually wasn't really aligned with, but it was almost societal conditioning or who I thought I had to be. And then coming back into, yeah, like I am elegant and I am sexy and I am powerful and I am feminine. It was like I had given myself permission to be that. And it's crazy because I don't think I ever could have gotten there in any other type of session, right? It had to come through the wardrobe.
That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. You also mentioned the word beautiful before. And you said, well, I didn't feel beautiful before, but I started to feel beautiful. Can you share with us your relationship with the word beautiful?
This was really probably one of the biggest breakthroughs in the session. So my relationship with the word beautiful, I didn't realize, but I never saw myself as beautiful. I would never express that about myself or relate to it, especially running my own business and being successful in other ways. It almost felt like that was too much to be like, okay, I'm beautiful, I'm successful. Like, oh my God. And we worked out it came from like childhood beliefs of being too much. And when you see a woman, and this would have come from my mum, seeing a woman who's successful and beautiful, like way too much. People don't like you. People don't like you when you're this beautiful woman who is really successful at what she does, and she's really nice and everyone gets along with her and she's the life of the party, and it's almost too much. And there was this part of me that was making myself wrong for it and almost disowning my feminine beauty in order to be successful because I couldn't have both. And so as we were going, I remember you saying, do you feel beautiful? And it was like, oh, like, no, I couldn't get there. And there was this part of me that was like so shut off to calling myself that or honoring that or stepping into it and embodying that. But I feel like that's completely shifted. Completely.
I love that. I so love that because it is really, really powerful. And I think what you've just described is that journey that so many women go through. And I'm really curious, and I would love to hear other people's thoughts on this, in the sense that, can I be it all? Can I really recognize my own beauty? And can that be my beauty, my way? And can I really honor the sense of I am beautiful? And what powerful, right?
And I feel it's so crazy reflecting. Like I feel so much more beautiful now without bleach blonde hair, without hair extensions, without filler, without like lash extensions and all of this stuff and Botox. I feel so much more beautiful now expressing myself than putting on the external things like we were talking about at the start, where it's like that idea of beauty. It's like actually beauty is the way I feel about myself, and me expressing myself authentically is beauty, not someone else's idea of it.
I think that's the perfect wrap up. I want to really thank you so much for your wisdom, for your sharing, for your vulnerability, for just giving us a sneak view into you and the power of who you are. And I love that you're owning the fullness of you, and it shows, like really shows. You can so feel it in your energy. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you really enjoyed this conversation, then please give it a like, rate it 5 stars, and then slide into the DMs with any comments. And I'd love to know what's really resonated with you today. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Kate.